Welcome to this explainer. If you're here, it's probably because, like me, you absolutely love peeling back the layers of complex texts to see how they actually tick. Today, we're diving into a text that is so often read just as a simple historical fable, but the reality, it is a meticulously architected literary masterpiece. It's a profound psychological study. I am, of course, talking about Surah Yusuf, the 12th chapter of the Quran. In this explainer, we're going to deconstruct this incredible narrative. We'll be looking at the hidden machinery of its structure, the deep archetypes of human behavior it presents, and frankly, the intense historical crucible that necessitated its revelation in the first place.
Okay, let's dive into this. On the agenda today, number 1, the year of sorrow. Number 2, the narrative architecture. Number 3, the 3 shirts. Number 4, archetypes of human nature. And wrapping it all up with number 5, the master plan. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The Year of Sorrow. To truly understand the sheer power of this text, we have to look at the intense historical and psychological environment that made this specific revelation so necessary. So, picture this. Historical consensus places the revelation of Surah Yusuf right around 619 to 620 CE. In Islamic biography, this is known as the Year of Sorrow, or al-Huzn. Within just a few weeks of each other, Prophet Muhammad faced devastating personal and political losses. He lost his wife, Khadija, who was his absolute primary emotional support. And then he lost his uncle, Abu Talib, his main political protector. Right after that, he faced a brutal physical rejection and a massive boycott at the city of Al-Taif. The early Muslims were isolated, they were completely overwhelmed, and they desperately needed a narrative of divine solace. They needed a psychological balm to sustain their resolve. But here's the thing. It wasn't just physical hardship. There was a direct intellectual challenge happening at the same time. The Meccan leaders, the Quraysh, desperately wanted to discredit the prophet. So they sent a delegation to the Jewish rabbis in Yathrib, basically asking for a gotcha question that only a true prophet could answer. The rabbis told them, ask him this: why did Jacob's family migrate from Canaan to Egypt? They assumed an unlettered Arab in Mecca would have absolutely zero knowledge of this ancient, unseen monotheistic history. Well, this revelation served as the immediate, highly detailed answer to that exact question, completely validating his mission while simultaneously comforting his followers. Now, what's really fascinating here is the number 11. You see, while other prophetic accounts in the Quran are scattered across multiple chapters to highlight different theological warnings, Surah Yusuf is totally unique. It dedicates almost its entire length, all 111 verses, to a single, continuous epic of Prophet Yusuf. And it was reportedly revealed in a single sitting. Moving on to Section 2, the narrative architecture. We're going to zoom into the hidden machinery of the text now, using modern structural analysis. So the text isn't just some chronologically told story. It's a precisely engineered piece of literature. It is constructed using what scholars call a macro-concentric ring composition. Basically, it's a perfectly symmetrical chiasmus. Notice how the second half flawlessly mirrors and resolves the tensions established in the first half? It's incredible. We open with an epistemological frame, which is mirrored right at the very end. Young Yusuf's prophetic dream, perfectly mirrored by the realization of that dream at the climax. The tragic family separation is resolved by the family reunion. And right there in the center, the literal axis of the whole chapter, lies Yusuf's massive trials and ultimate triumph in Egypt. Let's look at how this builds. Within that massive ring, we've got a localized double ring structure that traces a literal descent and ascent. In the first half, Yusuf's worldly fortunes completely plummet, right? He's thrown into a well, sold into slavery, faces hidden temptation, and is unjustly thrown in a dungeon. He is entirely a passive victim of a plot. But then, the second half acts as this brilliant mirror of ascent. He's released, he's publicly vindicated, he becomes the active director of this massive agricultural plan, and he's finally restored to his family. And this brilliantly illustrates the text's sinusoidal wave structure. Using computational modeling, researchers have actually mapped the narrative not as a standard Western linear arc, but as a repeating wave of trial and relief. The lowest peaks in this oscillation index correspond to massive moral trials, like the betrayal in the well or the unjust imprisonment. This wave-like structure isn't just for show, though. It's deeply pedagogical. It trains the reader to realize that severe lows aren't just random bad luck. They are structured phases meant to build the exact moral character required for future high responsibilities, like ruling the king's court. Section 3, the 3 shirts. Let's shift from the macro structure down to a micro literary motif. The physical garment of Yusuf acts as one of the absolute most brilliant rhetorical devices I've ever seen. for tracking character progression. The shirt literally transforms its meaning across the timeline of the story. In step 1, it's a tool of deception. The brothers present it to their father, Jacob, stained with false blood to simulate Yusuf's death. It's an instrument of a heartbreaking lie. In step 2, the shirt transforms into forensic proof of innocence. When Al-Aziz's wife falsely accuses Yusuf of assault, a witness points out that the shirt is torn from the back, proving Yusuf was fleeing and resisting her advances. It becomes a symbol of absolute moral integrity. And finally, in step 3, it becomes a literal vessel of healing. Yusuf sends this exact same garment from Egypt to be cast over Jacob's face, miraculously restoring his sight and symbolizing the final reunion of the family. All right, section 4, archetypes of human nature. Now that we understand the structure and the symbols, let's anchor this story where it really hits home: universal human psychology. The sources detail several specific character archetypes here, and they are incredibly revealing. First, we have Al-Hasidin, the envious ones. This is perfectly embodied by Yusuf's brothers. They are driven by a toxic mix of insecurity, pride, and pure entitlement. They literally viewed their father's love as a zero-sum game, meaning they actually believed that for them to be loved, Yusuf had to be completely removed from the picture. This archetype shows how just a single spark of jealousy can snowball into a literal plot for murder, decades of grief, and this incredibly complex web of falsehoods. Next is al-jahilin, the ignorant ones. Now, keep in mind, this doesn't just mean lacking information. It means acting out of impulsiveness, emotional rage, and profound spiritual immaturity. It's blinding yourself to the long-term consequences of what you're doing. What's amazing is that when Yusuf finally confronts his brothers years later, he doesn't call them criminals. He asks them what they did when they were ignorant. This is a stunning act of mercy. By attributing their horrific crime to spiritual immaturity rather than permanent evil, he leaves the door wide open for genuine repentance. Contrast that with as-sabirin, the patient ones. Both Jacob and Yusuf represent this archetype. They exhibit what's called sabr jamil, which translates to beautiful patience. But listen, this is not passive resignation. It is an active, steadfast endurance of hardship with absolute dignity. Whether it's Jacob facing the loss of his beloved son and his eyesight, or Yusuf facing decades in a dark, unjust prison, they prove that true patience is completely free of despair and panic. They turn only to God with their complaints. And then we have al-muhsinin, the doers of good. These are individuals practicing ihsan, which is this comprehensive, unwavering excellence and integrity in literally everything they do. What's amazing about Yusuf's status as a doer of good is that this radiant quality is recognized by everyone around him, regardless of their own status. His fellow inmates in the dungeon recognize it, his brothers recognize it, and ultimately the highly pragmatic king of Egypt recognizes it. This unwavering integrity was the absolute key to his survival and his ultimate elevation to power. Section 5, the master plan. Let's pull back and look at divine providence, the core theological concept driving this whole text. So, the crucial point is this. Throughout the entire narrative, humans are constantly exerting their free will. They're using envy, seduction, deceit, and complex plots. But God's master plan always prevails, and it does so by utilizing those very plots. Actions that were meant to completely destroy Yusuf were the exact subtle mechanisms used to elevate him. Just think about it. The slander against him is what directly leads to his ultimate public vindication. His unjust confinement, that's the very thing that prepares him for national leadership. A devastating regional famine serves as the perfect, necessary mechanism to bring his brothers right to his doorstep for a family reunion. And their initial envy and betrayal culminates in an epic, world-changing display of unconditional forgiveness. The entire narrative resolves on Yusuf's final, awe-inspiring realization. He says, "Indeed, my Lord is subtle in what he wills. Indeed, it is he who is the knowing, the wise." He recognizes in that moment that the chaotic, painful waves of trials, the betrayal in the well, the slavery, the agonizing years in prison, they were never random accidents. They were secretly guided by an unseen master planner from the very beginning. And that leaves us with a really profound thought to carry forward. We've seen how a text, revealed in a year of deepest sorrow, mapped out a sinusoidal wave where the absolute lowest lows were strictly necessary to achieve the highest highs. So I have to ask you, if trials are not just random bad luck, but meticulously structured phases meant to build character, what hidden architecture is shaping your own life's narrative right now? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep analyzing, and keep seeking those hidden structures in everything around you.